already know just where I be, dog. I ain't being cocky, but Philly what I'm reppin'. Watch me check it like it's hockey. I ain't tryna get it twisted. If you get it, then you got me. If you with it, cool. If not, I'll treat you like a Tamagotchi. I'ma let you down point. Yeah, I never disappoint.
What's going on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Today, we got the long-awaited video with my brother. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Pretty good.
So now, unfortunately, we were supposed to be playing some NHL. However, it is not working. It is taking way too long to load, which we're going to get to a little bit later on. But like I said, today is the first impression video, the first thoughts, everything to do with that effect. And, we have some online versus playing. And, when we were loading up for the game, we kind of mentioned EASHL not loading. And then it took us forever to find an online versus game. So, I don't know if the NHL gods have it in our favor or not today. But either way, we have it regardless of that. So, I guess let's just start off. Chris, how are you liking the game so far?
Well, Josh, personally, I've been struggling a little bit with the gameplay. Last year, took a little bit to get used to it, and that's fine. But last year, I don't know, I was like 300 and 100 in HUT, and this year I started out 1 and 2, and then I won my last 2 somehow. But it was not, I don't know, the gameplay just hasn't been as much fun this year. Between getting used to the new skating, the new physics engine has been really frustrating. The new poke check tuner seems to be pretty good, I would say, but we're still getting used to that, obviously, at this point. But so far, it's been okay.
Yeah, I feel you in that aspect. Haven't had the best of luck so far getting used to the new systems. I will agree on that one. I mean, especially when the way we play for so long, it kind of doesn't work exactly like that anymore. And that's always tough getting used to. But I kind of wanted to start out with first impressions, obviously, and kind of want to go into some things that if we've had some troubles with so far. And one thing I had a kind of problem with early on in this game is I don't know if it's just me and my aggressive kind of defense, but I've been taking a lot of penalties, and not just myself, but the opponents. I mean, I played a game, I think it was last week. I don't know if I actually recorded it or not, but there was 26 total penalties in the game. So I don't know if it was my doing of taking a lot of penalties. I know we had a pretty balanced effort on the penalty sheet, but personally, I feel like penalties right now are a little bit, I guess, called too often. I don't really know what I wanted to say there, but I feel like there's just too many penalties early on in this game, especially with people wanting to poke check, play the defensive skill stick, and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of them are tripping calls. I mean, I've had a couple hooking and boarding, obviously, with my more aggressive hitting style. But have you had any difficulties with penalties so far?
Yeah, I mean, my first game or two, my first game primarily, I took a lot of tripping penalties. I mean, obviously, I didn't play at all in the beta, so I think that was a huge part of it as well. But yeah, I had a huge problem in my first game with trips. Then my second game wasn't as bad, and then just as you get more frustrated, if you're losing a specific game or if you're having a bad kind of day playing the game, you're going to end up taking more of those frustration penalties, that end up with you being on the penalty kill way more often than you like. And unfortunately, it happened for me a couple times yesterday, where I was just taking penalty after penalty. And, I played a game this morning and I had 14 penalty minutes. The other guy had 0. And I'm trying to figure out how anyone is that well disciplined to not take any penalties in the video game. I mean, I understand that I was undisciplined by taking 7 penalties during the course of the game, but I want to figure out how my opponent was so disciplined that he didn't take a single penalty. That's the biggest problem I have, is that I feel like if one team has taken, for example, 5 penalties, the other team will have taken like 1 or even 0. Like, it just seems to be kind of lopsided, and there's no balance, like, between the two teams within the game. And it's not that, like I said, I was playing undisciplined, and I acknowledge that. But the fact that my opponent was playing so disciplined, he didn't take a single penalty, is just hard to believe.
Yeah,
Sorry, one more thing. Playing hut challenges against the computer so far, I've only been playing against like the rookie and semi-pro ones, so I haven't gotten to a higher difficulty yet, just with the challenges I've been playing. But the computers have not taken a single penalty against me this year. So I have never been on the power play in a hut challenge or any sort of offline game this year.
So Chris, I definitely agree with you on the penalty standpoint. I mean, changing play styles is always tough, but you know, when you're ever facing the AI, you never know what you're gonna get. Kind of like a box of chocolates. I don't remember who said that one, but
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, that's right. But you know, kind of to continue with the kind of the penalty discussion is you know, you were right with you know, sometimes when a team gets more penalties and you know someone you know gets 1 or even 0 penalties the entire game, it's super hard to believe in that aspect. But I mean, is it our play styles? You know, is it just is it the game kind of saying, hey, the one team's taking more penalties, so you know, let's be a little bit more strict on that team? You know, I don't know. Hopefully it's not that case, but you know, it always just seems like that. But I think kind of a big problem for myself is with my more aggressive style of play. You know, I do tend to poke check a lot, and you know, when I feel like poke checks in a sense. Now, I don't know if it's again my play style or if it's the game itself, where I can't really poke check, or I shouldn't really poke check unless it's that perfect angle. And you know, everything in hockey is the game of inches. It's the game of you know, mistakes, and you know, I just feel like you can't poke check unless it's that perfect angle. And even if it's not, you're really lucky to get a poke check. And I don't know, it just seems like you have to have that perfect timing down, that perfect poke check down in order to not take a penalty.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. One of my big defensive, I guess, go-tos from last year was that on the back check especially, like if you have, for example, Patrick Laine, so a 6'5" guy that uses a probably longer stick, you know, back checking on a guy like, you know, Tyler Johnson, for example, with a shorter stick, you're going to be able to reach the puck from behind him. So one of my biggest go-tos in the back check was to do that with a bigger player to a smaller player, and I'd be able to poke it off the stick, the puck goes to my defenseman, and I can get a turnover and immediately start a breakout. This year, I haven't had a lot of success with that, and I've actually taken several tripping penalties from a situation like that. So that's one of the bigger things I'm getting used to gameplay-wise. But I think it should be in the game. Like I said, you know, if you have a bigger guy back checking with a smaller guy, you're going to be able to reach the puck. So the fact that you aren't able to reach the puck and take so many tripping penalties from that is kind of a big thing. And like the biggest problem with it from a physics standpoint is that the guy you're using to poke check with, his stick just kind of goes through the other guy with just how the poke checking animation is. So that's a bigger frustration for me so far. And one more thing to kind of, unless you had something to add in with that point. Okay, go ahead.
So I do agree with you. You know, the people that have the longer sticks, you know, Zdeno Chara, some of the bigger, you know, younger guys that, you know, are big and have long reaches and such, like Patrick Laine, like you said, is, you know, if you obviously we're both hockey fans, you know, off camera too. I mean, we watch hockey pretty much as we can. You know, I'm lucky enough to be able to go to a lot of games. And, you know, when you see people poke check, they're not poke checking through their stick, or not through their stick, through their legs. They're not, you know, poke checking from directly behind them. They're not poke checking, you know, through their skate to go to their stick. They're going around the body. And when they do that, if they get, you know, tangled up along the boards, or if they get tangled up along people, then their stick is actually going to go around them and trip them up. it's not going to go with the poke checking animations that they have in this game where, you know, you just have to poke check near the guy and it's going to be a penalty. So when they're doing that, they're not poking, like I said, they're not poke checking through people's legs or, you know, attempting to, you know, take a penalty. But in this game, it's like, if you poke check even remotely close to a guy, you're taking the risk of getting a penalty. And I almost feel like if they change that animation or change how poke checks work, then maybe we'll get to the point where the game's a little bit more realistic and not just you have to, you know, poke check near a guy for it to be a penalty. Now, I know this obviously isn't real life, like it's a video game, but if we're going with trying to get to the more realistic aspects of the game, you know, we should definitely start with, you know, poke checks and hitting and fighting, and even the rule set and everything like needs to be as close to the game as possible. And you know, when we see, you know, kind of really annoying stuff happen, then I don't know, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, one thing I'm really happy they took out this year, just because it was kind of relevant to the play that happened, was the computer just automatically board playing you when you're anywhere near the boards. That was really, really frustrating last year, and I think it was toned, I mean, obviously it was toned down this year, but I think like now it's non-existent. So that's one of the biggest things. Other thing you saw earlier in this game, one of the opposing players took control of the goalie, and last year where it would have been a hit, he just is able to block you off without there being any physical indication that there is conduct or contact happening. So that's the first time I've seen that, because I haven't seen anyone take control of their goalie in any of my games yet. But that is kind of overpowered for someone like me who never wants to take control of the goalie. It's not something I'm going to use to my advantage.
Yeah, Chris, I completely agree. I mean, that was kind of a strategy back in what, NHL 14, 15, you know, back in the day where if you went out, you could actually like hit the guy. You know, that's no longer the case. And you know, am I glad they kind of took it out to where it's not a penalty? Because people used to abuse that all the time. And you know, it was every play where the puck got dumped down. You know, the other person would take control of the goaltender and you know, skate down there, try to draw a penalty with their goaltender. Because every time you just crush the goalie. And, you know, obviously it'd be a penalty because you're hitting the goaltender. And, you know, it was always just super frustrating to play against, because it was like, it wasn't fun at that point. Like, it was always more of a hassle than it needed to be. And, you know, I'm glad they kind of got rid of it. But, you know, now it's kind of come back to light in a sense in this game where, you know, yes, it's not a penalty, but it's still just super annoying to play against.
Yeah, it could definitely become a problem because, I mean, obviously there should be a skill gap between people who know how to control their goalie and people who don't, because that's, you know, like we've seen today, can be used to your advantage heavily. But the fact that it's that overpowered is kind of concerning. Again, I don't think you'll see it that often. You know, there'll be the handful of guys you'll play all year that know what they're doing when they control the goalie. Like, even after seeing this game, I'm not going to ever control my goalie because more often than not, it'll end up in a goal for the other team. But that has been a frustration. I'm noticing as well that hitting is really, really prominent. You know, they want to make it more like the real game and like make the pace of the game faster and everything like that. Then tone down the hitting and tone back up the stick checks, because if you ask me, stick checking is way more prominent than hitting in today's NHL.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one. I mean, yes, hits are part of the game. You know, we get that. But when... I know, also, this is online versus, so a lot of these guys are just on here to fool around, you know, play some hockey online against somebody. And if they don't want to play hut, you know, this is where they usually come. And we get that. However, when there's a team that's basically skating around holding down the right stick or holding up or to the side or whatever to make it a hit, and the other team has like 35 hits by the end of the game, you gotta think something's a little strange there, to where, you know, you gotta tone it down a little bit, because not everything is a hit. And you know, when someone has 37 hits and the other team has like 5 or even 10 hits, like, it's not always going to be, you know, the most crazy physical game. Especially with teams that are a little bit more, I guess, play styled towards the actual, like, skill of the game. You know, with playmaking and stuff like that. Like, yes, everyone has a fourth line with guys that are a little bit more physical than get points, but you got to think. I mean, not every team is going to have 30-something hits a game. And, you know, kind of even to go along with the whole hitting part is, you know, kind of the hitting mechanics this year. Now, yes, they had, like, a whole big new system about hitting. And, you know, yes, it was supposed to be this new big feature this year. But you got to think, when you have a guy, just say, like, Victor Hedman, right? He's, what, 6'7", 6'8", a big defenseman. And there's a guy like Tyler Johnson that's, what, like 5'8", 5'9", somewhere rather small in stature. And, you know, you got to think, if Hedman goes to hit Tyler Johnson or, you know, a smaller guy like Goudreau or, you know, whoever, right? It doesn't matter. If you're small in stature compared to a big guy in stature, who is usually going to kind of win that hit? The big guy. Like, it's kind of no question. But so far, I've noticed with this new hitting system, it's kind of been almost the opposite, to where all these little tiny guys are kind of not out-muscling the bigger guys, but kind of, like, hits don't affect the little guys nearly as much as they should. Especially with an example like Hedman or even Chara or, you know, guys like that. But then when you get a guy that's almost equal in size as Hedman or a Chara, and they go to hit each other, it's going to be the most biggest collision you've ever seen. So I think there's still some work to do on the new hitting system. I don't think it's completely fine-tuned yet. But also, this isn't the only thing that's wrong with the game yet.
Right, yeah. I mean, one thing you're kind of seeing from us right now is the player switching and how atrocious it is. I still wish they could institute a 2K, NBA 2K-like switching system where you can press something on the D-pad, and I know that changes the strategies in this game, but it calls plays in 2K. So if you could press a certain direction on the D-pad and then have it pop up with player indicators on who to switch with, I think that'd be a heck of a lot easier to manage with player switching, because last year you could press the right trigger, in our case R2 for you PS4 guys out there, and you'd get, you know, someone who's closer to the puck. Nowadays, you just get anyone on the ice. It'll probably even be the guy who's furthest away from the puck. And I know they instituted the flick with the right stick into the player switching, but for me, that just has not worked at all this far. Every time I do it, I end up hitting someone, or if I gain possession of the puck, I'll end up shooting the puck or something like that. So I haven't really enjoyed this new implementation for player switching. Although it was supposed to be an improvement, I haven't seen one yet. I'm hoping that, you know, maybe with community feedback and with the development team over at EA, who did a great job on NHL 19 as a whole, by the way. I want to mention that before we get done. I'm hoping that they can figure out a happy medium with the player switching.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we've seen it for years in the fact that, you know, player switching has never really been the best. However, you know, with that 2K-like system, I think it would be better almost even to have just, say, left on the D-pad or something, or down or up or whatever the case is, that you click on that menu and it pops up with, you know, your different buttons on your controller, whichever, you know, controller you use, and it pops up with, you know, X, B, Y, A, or right bumper, left trigger, you know, whatever the case is, that it would pick that player, like your center, your left wing, your right wing, left defense, right defense, and then I guess just keep the same thing for the goalie.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah, LB and A for the goalie works really well, but, like, if you could, you know, make the strategies, for example, like left for offense, right for defense, and then you can press, say, down on the D-pad, and then you have, you know, A, B, X, Y, and right trigger, for example, to switch to the player that you're trying to switch to, that'd make it a lot easier. Because, like I said, you're not switching to the player that's anywhere near the play this year.
So we are back here for a second game. We didn't quite make all of our points in the first one. But to kind of continue the points on some of the gameplay things that we've kind of noticed so far that we're not really the biggest fans of, is we've noticed a lot where the defense is actually jumping into the play And not just, you know, on the offensive break or not in specific situations, but like on the penalty kill, just say, like, when they jump up in the play, the forward will purposely stay back, we've noticed. And it's really strange because you wouldn't really do that ever. So we don't know why that's happening, because we've kind of noticed on you know, different strategies, and we're kind of regardless of the strategies, they have done the same thing. So why are they doing that, especially when, you know, you can just say the strategies aren't set that way? Like, why are they randomly jumping the play?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I definitely experienced some of that last year, having the defenseman jump into the play, particularly on the penalty kill, like you said. When the forward purposefully stays back just so the defenseman can jump up into the play, it doesn't make any sense. You're the forward. You're supposed to, I don't know, go forward, and that's just not happening this year. It's really frustrating, definitely.
I mean, I get it, just say if it's on the power play and the defensive skates it into the zone, and, you know, the forward's a little bit delayed on the play. You know, I get that, right? That's how you know, play hockey sometimes, especially on the power play. But, yeah, like you said, when the forward purposely stays back to allow the defenseman to go up, it doesn't really make... Yeah, like exactly that situation. I mean, it just doesn't really make sense to me. We don't know why it happens. You know, regardless of strategies, still just doesn't really make much sense. But let's move on to the next topic here, because you don't have all day to kind of to sit here and ramble about the same points over and over and over again. But you know, also another thing I've kind of noticed this year, I've kind of briefly went into to franchise mode this year. I know you've played it a little bit, but a lot of things I'm noticing are the menus. Now, yes, the menus look a lot better than usual, right? They updated the graphics, they made it a little bit more high definition, it looks like. But I don't really care about high definition or if they redo the graphics every year or all that stuff, right? I'm a big gameplay guy first, and then the cosmetic stuff afterwards. And the menus this year are absolutely atrocious. And kind of the main example I'm going to use is from franchise mode with doing the lines. It has half the screen with the actual lines where you can swap around the lines and stuff, and, you know, do whatever you have to do with your lines. And then the other half just has kind of the roster size, where it says 18 out of 18 skaters, you know, 2 out of 2 goaltenders. Why is the half the screen have so little words on it? I know my brother and I usually joke about, you know, road signs where there's barely any letters on them, and it kind of reminds me of that. Why, like, you should maximize that space, you know, have the, I guess, player numbers on the bottom to where they're kind of out of the way, because it's kind of not important, because if you don't have the amount of players up on your team, then that's probably an issue to begin with, but it shouldn't take up half the screen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm a big quality of life guy. I mean, obviously you want to focus on the gameplay with how much you and I play HUT and ESHL when it works. You know, I'm a big quality of life guy, just showing little things, like in Hockey Ultimate Team, if the player is untradeable, just have that indication on the card for me. Like you said in franchise mode, the fact that half the screen is blank, where last year it was taken up by the player's face, and believe me, I love the way that they put the, you know, the player name and all that kind of stuff at the top. I think it looks great. I think it's presented well. The colors look great. I mean, there's great contrast even against the darker background this year as opposed to the white background from 18. But like you said, show me another thing. Show me the potential of my player on that initial screen. The fact that you have to click onto every individual player and then it'll show you the potential is just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But it's really annoying, and especially we were used to seeing it that way in 18. You know, it just don't change things that don't need to be changed, in my opinion. Like I said, I like the presentation with the information and everything up top, but show me the potential of my player. Show me something on that side of the screen where it just has the roster numbers. Like you said, that's a great suggestion to move it down to the bottom. You know, it's not that big of a deal unless you don't have enough players, right? I mean, that doesn't need to take up half the screen. Show me the potential on the side. Show me, you know, even the star ratings of each category for the player on the side. Show me something. Don't just leave it blank. Also, just another quality of life thing. Why does the line screen only take up half the screen? You could make that 3/4 of the screen, have the player information be shown in an L, you know, on the top and on the right side of the screen. In a Hockey Ultimate Team, I need a telescope to see what position and what player type is on the card. You know, little things like that are kind of big to me. And I think if you change something that doesn't need to be fixed, I'm asking why. If you don't change something that is simply cosmetic like that could be changed, I'm asking why.
Your point, Chris, you know, you kind of took my point, but I'm kind of add on to it with changing things that don't need to be changed. Now, EA is kind of known for changing stuff for the sake of change and to make things look better or to add new features that were in the game previously and then call them new features when they add it back, which is kind of stupid, but it kind of goes along with the point with why take out things or why change things when they're not broken or they don't need to be changed, or you know, it's super frustrating in that aspect, especially when, you know, we're big franchise mode people, and you know, a lot of the things that they've done to franchise mode, or I guess owner mode, be a pro or be a GM mode, you know, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of always been the same effect with them changing stuff that, you know, kind of doesn't need to be changed. I mean, yes, the graphics look cool, don't get me wrong, but again, why are we changing stuff that doesn't need to be changed? You know, the line screen, it worked fine, it looked good. If you're going to overhaul the graphics of that screen a little bit, you know, go ahead and do so. But don't completely change it when, like, there's nothing wrong with it. Now, there was a bug or, you know, if it was broken, you know, okay, fine, fix it. But don't change it if it doesn't need to be broken.
Right, yeah, I mean, it just took us, what, 5 minutes to come up with, like, a couple different solutions, and the team that gets paid to do it couldn't come up with anything better. I mean, like I said, EA did a great job with this game. I love it so far. I mean, maybe love is too strong of a word, but I really, really like it so far. But, like you said, just the little things, the things that don't need to be fixed, just change them back. Like little things last year, you know, not showing like the numbers on a hot card. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a really annoying thing. I think they might have just changed it back for this year, but I don't know. There's a lot of things with this game. Like, they made great improvements, but it's not the banger that I was expecting. You know, seeing all the hype around it and the game changers and all those guys on YouTube did great, like hyping up the game and everything. Like I said, the game is good, but it's not the greatest hockey game of our generation like I thought, like I was expecting. I mean, obviously it's the greatest yet because 17 was pretty good, 18 was just bad, and then this year has been good so far, but it's not the life-changing, you know, spectacle that I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, again, to your point, everyone kind of hyped it up. I know that's what the game changers and those bigger YouTubers and streamers and, you know, all those guys, that's what they're supposed to do. I get that. But also, if you kind of look at a big, I guess, change this year, they added in something called the World of Chell. And, you know, personally, I was excited for this, right? The new NHL 1s mode, you know, the 3s mode, EASHL was kind of added to that. And there's one other one that I'm forgetting, the Pro-Am thing, which sounded super cool. However, the only game mode so far that's worked for me is NHL 1s. And even with NHL 1s, the wait time so far has been super long. I tried in one day, because we've tried to record this video since basically the game came out. And we wanted to do on EASHL because we both love EASHL. However, it's taken us, like, I think I've probably searched for over, like, 3 hours to try to find a game. Not in one setting or one time. But I think I've searched for a total of about 3 hours and still have not played a single EASHL game. And that's a problem, because so far, like, I wanted to come into EASHL and have a really fun time. But so far, we haven't seen any, like, games.
Yeah, Josh, I know the one night we were going to try to record, and, you know, girlfriend's getting home soon, you gotta get the recording done and everything like that, and we sat through 15 minutes of waiting in the world of Chell only to not see a single second of gameplay, and we were unable to record that night, which is why we're recording today. But you know, playing EASHL last year is super easy. I know they wanted to change the loadouts and stuff like that, which I think was a great idea and should have been done, and I'm glad they did that. But as far as the dressing room, the waiting time, again, all stuff that I didn't think needed to be fixed, and here we are, you know, a week into the game, whereas last year we probably had played at least a couple hours of EASHL. We haven't even been able to play a single second of it because the wait times are just so heinous. You know, we're dominant together in EASHL, and you're seeing how, like, decent we are in Versus. But, you know, we're a great team in any mode, basically. And when you can't play the mode that you're the best at, it's like, all right, guess we got to figure something else out. So that's definitely been frustrating. I am, however, elite at NHL ones. I won my first game 2-0 to nothing, elite on both ends of the ice. 50-foot player because, you know, ones isn't the whole rink. But yeah, ones has been good so far. But EASHL, a huge disappointment for me so far this year.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, especially when EASHL is kind of basically online via pro. And when you control your player, that's all you have to worry about is your positioning, how you play. You know, if we're going to make a pass, you focus on one player. Not, you don't have to deal with player switching or any other, like, stupid crap like that. Like, it's all yourself. So if you want to make a play or if you want to make a good pass, like he said, we're a great team. We know how each other plays. We know how each other wants to play. We know where each other wants the puck. Like, it's all kind of like a perfect duo in a sense. Like, it was like myself and Ben in Fortnite or COD or whatever. And it's, you know, my brother isn't that great at COD and Fortnite. But in NHL, we strive, right? We are great as a team. And it all kind of comes through EASHL, knowing how each other wants to play and, you know, being able to actually play the game. And so far, the World of Chell, I mean, kind of World of Chell in itself, again, I get, like, the big hype around it. But, again, why are we making this such a hype thing when, you know, the only thing that's really worked so far is NHL 1s? I mean, yeah, 1s is cool, right? I made a video about NHL 1s. I had a little bit of fun playing NHL 1s. But, come on. We're, like you said, we're a week into the game. Yes, we got to play it a little bit early because of the, you know, the version we got. But, come on. It's a week into the game and you haven't fixed this yet. Now, let's just say, if Epic Games made this game, it would have been fixed the day of, you know, when people started noticing the problem. Just saying.
Oh, for sure. I mean, also, I want to thank EA for taking position locking out of HUT. Like you said, if you want a position lock, play Be a Pro or EASHL. I'm so glad they took it out. You don't run into it very often. Well, I didn't last year. But when you do run into it, it has to be one of the most frustrating things I've ever experienced in a video game. You know, if you're not quick enough to back out or what have you, you're screwed, you know, against this position locker who only has to worry about doing what that one player is doing. And I only really thought about it because the center in this game is position locked. I mean, it's Pittsburgh. I can't blame him, but still, the fact that you're able to position lock in any in any online game mode that doesn't involve everyone being position locked is just bad. It's like playing Madden and being position locked to the right tackle. Like, why? I don't get that part, but yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you don't encounter all the time, but when you do, it's just one of those things where, you know, why was it ever a thing to begin with? And you know, especially when if you guys know how position locking works, you basically pick a position and it locks yourself to it. So in this case, this guy's the center. So obviously with Malkin, Crosby, Brassard, and whoever their fourth line center is, you know, obviously you have some pretty good players there, and you want to have the best players. But then it turns every other player, I should say every other computer, into like a superstar or an all-star. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a very, very good computer to where they make some of the craziest stuff happen. So I get why someone would do it to try to, you know, try to win, try to get those superstar moments. But like we said, when we encounter it, super annoying, but it's a rare occurrence. But I mean, as the game's kind of wrapping up here, you know, I kind of want to wrap it up here as well. You know, I kind of got through all my points. Chris, anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, like I said, this game is leaps and bounds better than NHL 18. So, again, props to EA for that. Just the little things like we've discussed, the things that didn't need to be changed that were changed. You know, the little cosmetic quality of life changes that could just, you know, be done, and I don't think they're that hard. I mean, if they are, then fine, but I don't think they'd be that hard to institute. Once they get those, you know, I'm already excited for NHL 20 because, like I said, this game was leaps and bounds better than 18. I can't wait to see what else they're going to come up with next year. I know it's still a year away, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, any new game, regardless of what it is always going to be exciting. However, I mean, like I said, the game's wrapping up here. Unless we absolutely choke and just stop playing and basically have no players on the ice, then I think we're going to win this game. But if you guys did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button down below if you have not already. Hit the subscribe button. And as always, guys, we'll see you next time.
I want you forever, even when we're not together. Scars on my body so I can take you wherever. Like, I want you forever, even when we're not together. Scars on my body, I can look at you and